10 compelling cases of children who claimed reincarnation. If your 4-year-old began to recall a past life, you could take a variety of approaches. You could dismiss it as a child's imagination, or you could seek the advice of an expert. Another option would be to reach out to the researchers at the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies for help. The Division of Research has over 1,200 records documenting cases of children who allege that they have been reincarnated from past lives. Some individuals believe these stories to be proof of reincarnation, while others theorize that the tales may be the result of false memories, lies, impressionability, disassociation, or an attempt to gain attention. Consider these cases and decide for yourself what you believe to be the source of the children's claims. Number 10. Suleiman Andrei. In 1954, Suleiman Andrei was born in Lebanon, claiming to remember a past existence. As a young child, he even recalled the names of his children from this past life. Interestingly, Andrei's family was part of the Druze faith, which is an Islamic-based religion that believes in reincarnation. Andrei recollected his origin from the village of Garaif, where he had an oil press. At dusk, his family heard him speak in his sleep, mentioning the names of several individuals he later asserted were his children in a former life. At 11, he refused to lend a book he had been asked for, citing a policy he remembered from a past life. Moreover, Andrei recalled the name Abdallah from his former life. Andrei had repressed his memories of Garaif for years, but when he visited in 1967 he was able to recognize various landmarks. He also learned that a man named Abdallah Abu Hamdan had once owned an oil press there. Although this brought back painful memories for Andrei, leading to teasing from his peers, he chose not to hide his past any longer. Number 9. Tay. In 2015, Professor Okato Masayuki, a Japanese linguistics professor, conducted an interview with a woman in her 20s who believed she was the reincarnation of a Chinese girl from the 17th century. She was able to provide accurate details of her past life, which left Masayuki astounded. Since then, the professor has dedicated his research to the study of childhood reincarnation cases. He continues to investigate more cases to this day. In 1993, Atsuko tragically lost her mother, who had 3 children, including the beloved daughter. The following year, the daughter got married, moved away, and had a child, Tay, in 1996. Tay reminded Atsuko of her mother. When Atsuko showed 2-year-old Tai a picture of Midori and said, "This is your grandmother," the child responded, "Me." Like the Andrei family, Atsuko's family followed the beliefs of Zen, which holds the belief of reincarnation. When Tay was 3 years old, Atsuko experienced a period of intense sadness due to her mother's passing. One day, as she was taking Tay for a walk, Atsuko heard the young girl say, "I have to cheer her up." This gave Atsuko the impression that her mother was still alive, and the memory of that moment would stay with her for years. When Masayuki re-interviewed Tay in her late teens, she could no longer recall Midori or any of her memories from her past life. Number 8. James Leninger. At the age of 2, James Leninger made a remarkable assertion, that he remembered a past life as an American World War II pilot. This claim was prompted by a visit to the Kavanaugh Flight Museum with his father, and subsequently he began to have nightmares about an airplane fire. Later that same year, the toddler identified himself as Jack Larson, a pilot who had flown off the Natoma during the war. Furthermore, he was able to locate the place where Larson's plane had been shot down while looking through a book about Iwo Jima. In recent years, there has been much skepticism surrounding Leninger's case. Objections have been raised that there is little evidence to support the claims, and that the majority of the information has been provided by the boy's parents. Therefore, the case lacks sufficient explanatory and evidential value. Number 7. Dorothy Eady. In 1904, Dorothy Eady was born in London's Blackheath district. At 3 years old, she suffered a major fall and then her life took a strange turn. Visiting the British Museum with her family, she was captivated by a photograph of Seti I, an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. She declared this was her home and proceeded to kiss the feet of the museum's Egyptian statues. Her bizarre behavior continued, including sleepwalking, and she was institutionalized multiple times. At age 15, Eady had a dream that she met the mummy of Pharaoh Seti I, and recalled details of her past life. From then on, she was known as Seti and became a renowned Egyptologist. Number 6. YTK. In the late 1960s, MMS and his wife resided at an Air Force base. In 1968, MMS tragically fell to his death while participating in a parachute training exercise. He had landed too close to the airfield's edge and fell into a pond that was 15 feet, 4.5 meters, deep. Many years later, His widow married one of MMS's comrades and subsequently gave birth to a baby boy, YTK. This baby had both birth defects and rope-like birthmarks around his leg. From a young age, YTK had vivid memories of falling from the sky and being caught up in a rope. At 3, he began talking about these experiences, and by the age of 5, he had completely stopped. YTK lived on a parachuting base where he slept in a cot suspended from the ceiling with parachute ropes. Despite his vivid memories, his mother reported that YTK was unaware of his father's death. Number 5. Shiva Tripathi. In 1985, Sumitra Singh, who lived with her husband in Uttar Pradesh, India, experienced a loss of consciousness with eye rolls and teeth clenching. On one such occasion, Singh predicted that she would die in 3 days. True to her words, 3 days later, she appeared to pass away. Confused and acting differently, Singh began going by the name of Shiva and denied recognizing those around her. She also shockingly claimed to have been murdered by her in-laws back in Dibyapur, India. Dismissing her children, Singh's story corresponded with a woman who died violently in 1985. Eventually, Singh traveled to Sharifpura, where a man identified her as his daughter. Despite having little education, Singh began to read and write during this time. In 1985, the Indian Express published details about the case. Number 4. Manisha. In 2005, a 4-year-old girl named Manisha knocked on the door of a family home in South Delhi, India. She declared that she was their deceased daughter, Suman, who had died of typhoid at the age of 15 in 2000. The young girl then took up residence with the couple she asserted were her new parents. A baby was brought into the world to a pair close to Rajasthan, India. At the age of 2, the young girl informed her mom and dad that she was reincarnated. Subsequently, she disclosed to her biological parents the details of her past life and the names of her new parents. Number 3. Cameron Macaulay. In 2000, Macaulay was born in Glasgow, Scotland. Astonishingly, at the age of 2, he began discussing his past life on the isolated island of Barra, in the Outer Hebrides, Scotland. He was able to provide details of his other family, including their surname, and even mentioned that his father had been killed by a car. Macaulay insisted that he must go to Barra to be with them. At the age of 5, Macaulay traveled to Barra and arrived at the Robertson home, where he was met with a wave of sadness. He told his new mother that he missed his old one, leaving her to grapple with the bittersweet reality of her son's situation. Number 2. Luke Ruhlman. At his family's Cincinnati home in 2017, 2-year-old Luke Ruhlman began expressing concern about his safety. He also began to call a ladybug Pam, despite there being no other Pams in his family. This behavior continued, with Luke assigning the name Pam to toys and drawings. In addition, he asserted that he had been a girl with black hair in a past life, and even had earrings. When the family asked who Pam was, the boy replied that it was his name from a previous life. He said that he had died in a fire at the Paxton Hotel in Chicago. Although the family was not religious and had never discussed religious subjects in front of the boy, he claimed that he had gone to heaven, seen God, and then been sent back to earth as Luke. The boy did not know where Chicago was, and his family was surprised by the information he provided. Upon researching the Paxton Hotel, they discovered that in 1993, there had been a fire that had trapped many of its upper floor residents. Number 1. Bishan Chand. Born in 1912 in northern India, Bishan Chand was given the name Vishanatha by his mother, as she had visited the Vishwanath temple before his conception. At the young age of 10 months, Chand began to speak about a town called Pilibhit, located 31 miles, 50 kilometers, to the northeast. He even revealed his previous name, Lakshmi Narayan. When Chand was 4 years old, he was taken to a town past Pilibhit. On their way back, he heard the name Pilibhit and demanded to get off the train, but his request was denied. When the child eventually visited the town, he recognized various locations and made additional statements about his previous life. The child also learned that he could play a type of drum he had never seen before. As he aged, Chand began to lose memories of his previous life. After several interviews with Chand's family, reincarnation researcher Ian Stevenson eventually interviewed a 40-year-old Chand in 1969. Chand expressed the perspective that his previous life was better because he had more money and more freedom.